Japan has taken 3 decisions this week that many would argue makes it a hypocrite. First, requested the largest defense budget ever. Second, signed the biggest export order for large-scale defense equipment. And third, a former prime minister said this at the anniversary of World War II.
I believe it is essential to face up to the past, learn from history, never forget it, and educate future generations.
Why is pacifist Japan investing heavily on defense? Is Japan spooked by Trump abandoning his allies? And is the future forcing Japan to rearm? I'm Ananya Datta, you're watching Grey Zone. Imagine a nation emerging from ruins, its cities in ashes, its people exhausted, its ambitions buried beneath one simple truth: never again. That was Japan in 1947, 2 years after surrendering in World War II. It weaved Article 9 into the Constitution, explicitly renounced war and banned maintaining war potential. It made pacifism its identity. But the Cold War's chill changed everything. Under pressure from the United States and shifting geopolitics, Japan quietly rebuilt its defense, enough to protect but never to project. But geopolitics today has no rules. It's nothing like the World Wars or the Cold War, and Japan is trying to keep up with it. A week ago, Japan's defense ministry requested a record high $60 billion for fiscal year 2026, a historic leap in this sector. And this marks the 12th consecutive year of Tokyo increasing its defense budget at record rate. 4 days later, Japan made it to the headlines again, this time for signing a deal to export next-generation warships to Australia. Now, the deal is that Australia will upgrade its naval forces with 11 Mogami-class frigates, built by Japan's Mitsubishi Heavy Industries for $6.5 billion. Now, these are advanced stealth frigates capable of launching long-range missiles and have an operational range of up to 18,500 kilometers. If you compare this with Australia's current frigates, they only have a range of about 11,000 kilometers. Japan's bid surpassed competition from Germany, Spain, and South Korea. The first vessel is expected to enter service by 2030. And while it is definitely a boost for bilateral relations between Tokyo and Canberra, this has a bigger implication for the wider region.
The recent selection of Japan's upgraded Mogami-class frigate as Australia's next-generation general-purpose frigate marks a significant step forward in Japan-Australia defense cooperation. At the same time, it contributes to strengthening security resilience across the Indo-Pacific region.
The Japanese defense minister mentioned the Indo-Pacific region, which is increasingly setting up to become the next battleground. And that brings us to our most important point today. Japan may want to be a fully pacifist country, but geography doesn't give it that privilege. The map tells the real story here. Japan sits in the middle of some of the world's most volatile waters. To the southwest, China's naval forces loom. A recent incident, in fact, underscored the presence. 2 heavily armed Chinese Coast Guard vessels breached Japanese waters near the Senkaku Islands, persisting for days in a show of force. Then in March, the Chinese Coast Guard broke records by lingering inside Japanese territorial waters around the islands for 85 hours straight. Add airspace incursions. One saw a Chinese helicopter breach Japanese airspace for 15 minutes, prompting fighter jets to scramble. To the west lies North Korea, a state that continues to launch missiles almost casually into the region. In May alone, it fired a barrage of short-range ballistic missiles into the Sea of Japan, raising alarms in Seoul and Tokyo. That same month, Kim Jong-un, the supreme leader, inspected missile production ramp-ups, and then Japan responded by extending its trade sanctions through 2027. And even if Japan wants no part in this conflict, the peninsula next door doesn't give it that choice. If both North and South Korea escalate their arms race, Japan will inevitably be drawn into the equation, whether it wants to or not. And you see, the pressure isn't just local. Countries both close and far are claiming stakes in the Indo-Pacific, and in the process, pulling Japan into the spotlight. The US is repositioning forces in Guam and Okinawa to counter China's rise. Britain, through its AUKUS links, is extending naval reach into Asia. Even NATO, traditionally Atlantic-focused, now calls the Indo-Pacific a strategic priority. Add Australia, India and France, all expanding exercises and patrols, and suddenly, this region feels less like Japan's backyard and more like the world's contested front yard. For Tokyo, this global convergence is a double bind. On one hand, it offers allies in joint drills. On the other, it draws unnecessary attention to Japan's waters. Attention that turns every single island chain and shipping lane into a stage for great power competition. And in that theatre, pacifism looks less like a principle and more like exposure. I'm Ananya Datta. Thanks for watching.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.